Bom dia a
Good
todos.
morning, ladies and gentlemen. So before introducing myself, I would like to remind you that there is a link for English for those of you who would like to listen to the session in English. My name is Mônica Bicalho. I am the coordinator of the theme department of the rural department of ABES, the Brazilian Association of Environmental and Sanitation Engineering. It is a great satisfaction that we opened the special sessions of the Brazil Water Week in Brazil, held by ABES, the most important international event on water held in this country. The special sessions are free of charge. They're open to the public in general. They're going to happen from today up until Thursday and from Tuesday to Thursday next week. You may access the link on the chat to register in all of the sessions. From the 26th to the 30th of October, we're going to have 5 whole days of Brazil Water Week with more than 50 hours of online content and more than 6 experts from Brazil and from other 16 countries. So we would like to thank our sponsors, Sabesp, Mia, Suez, Ana, Aegea, SEDAI, and Igua Saneamento. I would like to invite you all to stay with us by the end of the session so that we launch the 31st Brazilian Congress on Sanitation and Environmental Engineering, ABES conference, to be held in September 2021 in Curitiba City in the state of Paraná, Brazil. So this special session has the theme of the challenge of universalizing sanitation in Brazil. And then we are going to welcome our guests, Neuri Freitas, Director of the Water and Sewer Supply of the state of Ceará in Brazil, Elder Cortez, Director of the Business Unit for the Countryside with Cagece, Mr. Jacy the President of the utility company Águas do Mirante, Barjas Negri, the Mayor of Piracicaba City, Mônica Porto, the Director of Regional Systems with the Basic Sanitation Company of the state of São Paulo, Sabesp. So you may watch us and you may ask questions in the chat. They're going to be answered by the guests and panelists by the end of the presentation. The video of this webinar will be made available in this channel and at ABES website when we close the event. Good morning, my dear panelists, my dear guests. Let's begin with the state of Ceará in the northeastern of Brazil. So, Neuri and Elder, what is the current status of the water and sewer services in the state of Ceará, for example? What kind of strategies have you used to universalize the service provision in the urban and rural areas? So, if there is a foreigner watching us, Ceará is in the semi-arid region of Brazil. So, Neuri, on to you. Good morning. Thank you, Mônica. I would like to greet Mônica, the coordinator of this event. I've known her from other projects, especially the ones with the rural sanitation. I would like to greet Mônica Porto from Sabesp, the water supply utility company, Elder Cortez from the water and utilities in Ceará, the mayor of Piracicaba, Mr. Barjas Negri, and Jacy. It's a pleasure to be here with you, Jacy Prado. So I have my presentation here for you. And for the state of Ceará, I would like to talk about sanitation, overall sanitation systems, and I'll be focusing on the structures and municipalities in which we operate. And then you will have a link available so that we may have a discussion on rural sanitation. Elder is an expert in that area, so he's going to conduct this discussion. So there'll be information on how we deal with the rural sanitation in the state of Ceará. So let me show my slides to you.
Bom, vamos lá. É o desafio da universalização no saneamento, do saneamento no Brasil. Nós temos aqui
Well,
retrato.
sanitation in Brazil. Time is short, so I'll briefly cover the information because many of you are familiar with that. This is the snapshot of Brazil. Coverage is 83% for water, sewer 53%, and then we see the number of inhabitants that have no access whatsoever, especially to the sewer system. But water is still, an expressive figure, and we need to work on that and think about that. But we do have this scenario. The average rate for water supply is 417, sewer is 3.76, the loss rate is 38%. Much is discussed about universalizing and the amount of investments to make it possible. In the last few months, because of the debate of the change in the regulatory framework, the 700 billion has been discussed, both to invest and to recover the existing assets. In the northeastern region, where the state of Ceará is located, the coverage for a sewer drops. It is at around 28%. The index for water drops at 74%. And the challenge is even greater because of the scenario that we see in our country. So we have the average rate for water and sewer services, which is quite similar to that of Brazil, 4.24 to water and 3.81 to sewer. Loss rate is 45%. So we have a loss ratio if we compare to that of Brazil, which is a bit higher. But in terms of rates, we have quite similar rates to those of Brazil. And then we have this new scenario. That's for the new sanitation law. And I would like to address the rural sanitation in this case. So throughout the last months, there's been this debate. And then there are two extreme sides. We have the state-owned companies on one side and the private companies on the other side. And I would not like to, I wouldn't, address this topic. We have to start thinking what is needed to universalize sanitation in this country and in the state of Ceará, especially in the municipalities in which we operate. We do have concession contracts in some municipalities. So with the new law, the state-owned companies will have a great deal of opportunities. Of course, if we do not fulfill and comply with all of the targets and contracts, the investments will have to be made. And this sounds like a threat, but I'd rather see it as an opportunity of developing new businesses such as solid waste or power generation or reuse of water. There are many other alternatives that we can, add to our operations in the sector, especially to reduce the rates, which is an important point to be discussed. So the companies have to speed up and start preparing for this new market. Some important points, for example, in terms of vetoes. There was this important bill that was vetoed. It was removed from the legislation. It would be important for rural sanitation. So we use the community associations here in the state of Ceará. So this posed some difficulties. It's not going to hinder our infrastructure operations, but it brought us additional difficulties. So we had to, gear extra efforts. So when you are to operationalize the required investments for the municipalities in which the companies that provide regional services have to perform such operations. You have long-term contracts, you also have short-term contracts. And as we create regionalized units, within the same block, we have different units with diverse situations. And perhaps this will pose some difficulties and complications in making everything operational. So perhaps the vetoes, they need to be carefully studied at the federal house so that we can have the best possible alignment. It doesn't really matter whether we are going to use the state-owned companies or the private companies, but with the current scenario, we might have some operational difficulties because of everything that I have just described to you. So that's the challenge here in the state of Ceará. Our coverage for water is 98%. Our coverage for sewer is virtually 43%. It's a little bit better in the capital city. We have 63% coverage for sewer in the capital city. In the urban region, that's where we operate the most. We consider it to be universalized for water. Of course, we need to improve the water supply system. We need to reduce the losses. And for the sewer system, there's much work to be done. There's much to be studied so that we can reach the universalization of sewer services. So we have a new regulatory framework. That's a new point for discussion. So by 2033, the water coverage should be 99% and the sewer coverage should be 90%. So we have to consider what has been recently discussed. That is indebtedness capacity, investment capacity of the companies. What would be the cap rate? That's the key point. That's our key point in the discussion when we discuss the financial and economic feasibility of the water and sewer services. So how much can the population afford to pay? So this cap rate, how can we identify the maximum, the ceiling rate? There's some studies addressing that, one of them by the World Bank, which is a bit older, and it talks about some figures about the cap rate. We cannot compromise the income of families to pay for sewer and water services in more than 5%. Is that the true limit? With that amount, can we provide services? Can we make the services feasible through any company, be it public or private? Because we do have to reach the break-even point. But that's a key point that we should be discussing right now. So in Ceará state, thinking about universalizing, we have approximately 15 billion that is required. And here goes a caveat. Based on the map of the state, as you can see here, what is in blue are the municipalities in which we operate. In gray, we have the municipalities in which we have local municipal companies, autarkies or mixed economy companies, but they do have a local management. And the figures that I introduced to you are figures that are related to the municipalities in which Cagece operates. So by 2033 or by 2040, we must reach universalizing. We have to reduce the losses and, refurbish some of the assets. And that's what we need. If we think about 2033 or 2035, more or less, that would be additional 15 years. We would have to invest approximately 1 billion per year to be able to universalize the services. And it's a gradual investment. And if there is a major investment made initially, that will definitely impact the rates for the users. So we have to do it gradually so that we dilute the rates, especially in Ceará, because the family income in Ceará is not that high. So it has to be taken into account. And then speaking about the rates and the raising of funds and how we are going to do that. So we have this rate model, which is widely spread in the country. Of course, there's a model for private companies, there's another model for state-owned companies, and that will depend on the hiring method. But as investments are made, there is a shift in the rate level. The investments, they are based on capital costs, and this has to be covered by the rates. That's the key discussion point. So how much should this rate be? If you invest everything and you can carry that over to the rate, everything is feasible. But then the affordability of the population has a limit. So what's that limit? What's that ceiling? What's the rate that each region or municipality can afford to pay? So if we think about local service provision, how much can each region or municipality or block, depending on how we group them, so how much can they afford to pay? What is that amount? So this has to be studied. Here in the state of Ceará, we are going to carry out a study. We are going to take many studies that have been made in the market, and that's the core point, I would say. So more recently, we had this discussion, how will the companies raise funds? What is their investment capacity? And that all depends on a rate that can cover the investments. So we have to discuss the cap rate and the indebtedness capacity of the companies and the fundraising capacity of the companies, be them private or public. And then, as of now, we need to find new sources of investment. The sanitation industry has been linked to official sources such as the Development Bank, the BNDES, for example, or BNB, for example. We have to find new sources of funding, be it from funds, be it from the capital markets, or partnerships with the private initiative as well. Why not? So we have to leverage as much as possible and find other options. We cannot be linked to a single options. We have to consider the public funds as well, because if we cannot improve the rates, and if the investment is unfeasible, I think the public sector will help us, will have to help us with funding. So we have to make sure that we have rates. Here where you see the UN, it's not the UN, it's a study made by the World Bank. And they say that the rate for water and sewer services should not surpass 5% of the income, of the family income. Some countries say that it should be 3%, as the United Kingdom says. Anyhow, we have to make investments in the sector. And then the indebtedness capacity and the investment capacity of the companies have to be taken into account. The new horizon for us to reach universalizing and the efficiency of the services, for instance, reducing losses. We have to aim at establishing public-private partnerships. We have been doing this in the state of Ceará. So there's a project that is underway. We have to go for the IPOs, make the companies public, open up the capital of the company this year. Because of the pandemic, we have to consider that carefully. But becoming a publicly owned company is a way for universalizing greater access to the capital market. In addition to becoming a public company, you can raise funds. We can issue debentures, be them with the fiscal incentive of the federal government or not, but that's another alternative. And something that I think is key. So for the sector to become more streamlined, it would be important to have an assessment of the federal government using resources from the Development Bank, BNB, in debureaucratizing the system, because it's quite difficult, to obtain resources from such funds. As a state-owned company, to get the funds, we need the monetary fund to release such allowance. That is the limit of indebtedness of the public sector. So even if you are eligible for funding from the government, this limit has to be released by the federal monetary fund, or you will not be granted, the funds from the development bank or the BNB, which is another public bank. So we need to change that. There's much red tape. We have to improve the situation, and then the sector, I think, will evolve more easily, I would say. So in aiming at universalizing, we have to make the system more efficient. In each measure that we take, to avoid costs and avoid unnecessary costs, then you have a better margin on your rate to make investments without actually increasing the rates. So that will help to universalize the services. So we have to start looking into all of the processes to reduce costs. We have to reduce the losses as well. And then in the state of Ceará, and Mônica was just saying, right, that the state of Ceará is in the semi-arid region in the northeastern region of Brazil. So we have to live with this situation, this weather situation that is known to all of you. We have many drought periods. There was a recent one from 2012 to 2018. So we are now beginning to improve. So we have extra capacity in the reservoirs right now. It's getting a little bit better, but we have to address droughts as something that is part of our day to day. We were thinking about diversifying the water systems. So there was this tendering process that was made, and the request for proposals happened just now in October. So we are waiting now for the evaluation to declare the winner of the tendering process. Also, the reuse of water and also the overflow of the San Francisco River, and also fighting against losses. This has been widely discussed. If we take the sanitation law, there are 4 or 5 articles there that address the losses. So we have the targets, the regulating agencies will demand such targets to be met so that we have more efficient costs and better rates, so that the rates can cover the investments that are required.
Sanitary line, we have the expansions and the emergency to renovate the assets, and all state companies. For private companies that are arriving now, they are investing as necessary. This is incorporated, but state companies that has at least 50 years, we have a long way to go. And one important thing, and in my opinion, this is essential for universalization, it's the importance of the network connection. Today you have a coverage, but not necessarily all people connected to the sewer network and using it. So this brings an impact from the financial and economic point of view, and also in relation to sewer, an environmental impact. So if we have more people paying, you will be able to have a better financial status, less debt, and if you are in a good financial level, from as a company, you can have your rates reduced, because if everybody pays, the rates will decrease. But today you have to pay more in order to fund all the investments and everything. And to finish, in order to have a universalizing in Ceará, that's what we have been doing. Here we have a desalination plant. 12% of the population will be affected. And this happened in October 6th. And this is a public-private partnership, a PPP with a private partner to install and operate the plant for 30 years, with Cagece assurance to buy the water. So this is an idea. Even before this new regulation, the new legislation, it's something that we have been doing, searching for new alternatives to fund the sector. And here, to fund an area that will bring diversity to the water sources, not depending on rain all the time. We have an ocean and we can use it. Here, we have reuse. Today, we can get the sewer of Fortaleza and take to the harbor and supply water, reuse water. And we have some leftovers of the traditional water from rain that are accumulated in the dams and in basins, special basins built to become reservoirs. We have Sabesp that has that. In Bahia, we also have that. And it's a point that we have to invest because we will be able to improve conditions of public service and mitigate or even increase the universalizing process. And reuse water, it's a reality. We have a process together with private sector, and we expect that up to 2022, we will have an operation to sell reused water. Another situation, and probably that's the major project for universalizing, we are working with BNDES in a PPP for the universalizing of sewer in the metropolitan region of Fortaleza and also Cariri. It's a project that is quite advanced. We have all the studies from the technical side, and now we are working with the financial, digital aspects, and also warranties. And I hope that in July next year, we are going to have another bidding process in order to reach this universalizing process. It's about 5 billion reais, and it's an alternative for the whole process with a partnership with the private sector. Besides that, we have many other projects with the reduction of water losses. We have this system to optimize the control of this water, and we are going to have a better control for the whole commercial aspect. I hope I haven't gone beyond my time. Those are the major projects we have, and that's what we are dealing in relation to universalizing. We are going to work with the state for regionalized regions. We are going to identify operational problems. We are going to agree on that and continue and invest whatever it's necessary to reach universalizing and also to reduce water loss. I think that's it I have to share with you. And now Elder can talk about the rural side, because we have a Cagece operating in the urban area, and we have community associations in the CESAR Institute. It's a non-governmental institution which has the support of the state and from Cagece, and Cagece invests in this area with CISAS in order to have the universalizing process. You are going to see our numbers in relation to rural sanitation. Thank you. Thank you very much for your attention. Elder, you can continue, please.
Bom dia a todos.
Good morning, everybody. I would like to greet Mônica Bicalho and all other who are present here, and also Neuri for his great presentation. I'm going to share my presentation from rural sanitation. And well, here it is. The challenge of universalizing in Brazil. As it was Neuri mentioned, I'm going to mention the rural side, and I'm going to explain what it is here in Brazil. It's a decentralized sector by definition. Communities that have no service are the ones which are far away, they are scattered, and it costs a lot to serve them. And the rural sanitation emphasize the construction of civil construction. And the sanitary is the most difficult one, and that's why we have less coverage. We have lack of planning, and services are related to politics without focusing in management and sustainability. Well, investment from rural sanitation. We have the resources that come from the National Treasury, FUNASA, OGU, but they are rare and difficult to access. We also have resources from international institutions like the International Bank, BIRD, and they have high interest rate. What makes it more difficult to use? The resources from private initiative are almost inexistent, maybe by lack of incentive, motivation, or feasibility. Here we have a suggestion. Why the national institutions do not invest with social resources in this type of project. Planning for universalizing the rural sanitation, it starts with a major difficulty. We have to define what rural is. It's not clear what is it. And in order to plan that, we need to have a system that will precisely determine the number of places, the number of families, the ones in which we have supply, what type of supply, and increase the speed of planning and execution. We also have to avoid overlapping of investments and get to know the real demand of the amount to be invested. Well, in Ceará, we have this universalizing process that has been happening. And rural in Brazil in 2010, it will represented 15% in Brazil, and 25% of the Ceará population is 25%. So we understand that to universalize the rural as the urban sanitation aims at improving the quality of life of those who live in the rural region. They also will have opportunities for jobs and revenue. We will also have an improvement in health indicators. And 72% of the whole population of Ceará have not only access to water, they had the opportunity to access the system. And out of the whole rural population, 39% are in CESAR, 20% between Cagece and SAI, and 13% that is managed directly by the city government or communities. I would say that they have a management system that is whatever God wishes. They don't have maintenance and all the supervision necessary for a good service. And how do we prepare ourselves for the universalizing process? First of all, public policies were prepared. We have water and sewer supply, and we have a state plan and also a sanitation fund. We also created this department, the Executive Department of Sanitation, under the Department of Cities. And their line of thought is related to basic sanitation for the city and from the rural region. So here we have an address for rural and urban sanitation that is under this department. We also have standards. Any state entity, any investment from the state will be done according to this standard that the state has for projects, constructions, and management. All rural investments have to follow this standard. And this was prepared by the Executive Department of Sanitation. We also have a legal framework that is being adjusted for the new regulatory framework. Besides that, we have a basic structure for sanitation from the state government through their departments, the Department of Cities. And here we also have an example. We have the São José project, that is a funding from the World Bank, and also Water for Everybody program. All that in accordance with the project standards, management standards, and construction standards from the Department of Cities. And we also have Cagece, a company that provides technical support and also follows the whole rural area of Ceará. Not only what is done by the Department of Cities, but also the Department of Agriculture Development. We have two departments which are responsible for the whole rural area, so they will have a standard and quality. Us, the state of Ceará, had two major funding process, one with the World Bank, the last one signed in the beginning of the year, 209 million reais from the World Bank to benefit 94,000 people, and from the German bank, 407,000 reais to serve 200,000 people in Ceará. And the state came, our state is willing to universalize the rural area, making these debits and speeding up the rural sanitation. And Cagece comes with the support of management model. 6 million is what Cagece spends to support all these projects. Here we also have federal investments. I don't know how much it's going to be for the next years from FUNASA and also the Ministry of Rural Development. But we are expecting them to increase the amount. But one thing that is really important for us is the city resources as partnerships. We also have private resources. Coca-Cola Institute, Ambev, has invested in Ceará sanitation. We have this efficient system, and also the resources from CISAR and the communities who are willing to have these partnerships and help. CISAR, we all know that it's a federation of community association development from the World Bank support, and it wants to recover citizenship. It has to be self-sustainable and self-managed. And this is a shared model with the association, with the federation, with actions and commitments. They manage all that. The association performs the whole local service, and CISAR, that is the integrated system, performs the more complex tasks with a more effective management and everything. Here, to mention the Water Week, I'm calling this community, and here you can see the Community Association Brazil Water Week. You can see the water consumption. It's all stratified. The operator is voluntary, but has to be affiliated to the association. And here we also have electrical power, and then in average 23 reais. And we have the Febraban model here for the bill, and we stratify each consumption. In the CESAR management model, there is something quite important. Citizenship is back for you who lives in the rural side, and then you have this to prove where you live, to prove your address. And this shares the revenue. Those R$12.89 goes to CESAR. All the rest stays in the local association with revenue distribution because the operator belongs to the association, the power, it belongs to the association, and the management fee is also for the association, so they have their financial independence. So why should we manage it in a community manner? We can have committees, associations, and federations. First, we have to act for the whole community to have more power and social strength. Strength the productive and commercial initiatives. The associations may also be dedicated to the needs related to the community life. So they go beyond that fact of just managing water in the community. They will think about the community, how they live in relation to education, health, and everything. And last but not least, share objectives and together look for solutions. So where do we have CESAR in Ceará and in Brazil? In Brazil, we have two in Piauí, one in Picos, and they are building another one in Teresina. We also have two centrals. It's not called CESAR, it's called Central, one in Jacobina and one in Seabra. And in Ceará, we have built for more than 25 years the 8 CESARs to serve the whole Ceará state. And they have built, according to the sanitation standard, we have the whole group. And I would like to mention that I'm on vacation on Pernambuco. And tomorrow I would go for the CESAR Foundation in Mochotó. And then I will be there on the 15th, which has a planning similar to Ceará. And then we are going to build other CESARs. And here we have the whole history. Here we have the cities where all 8 CESARs from Ceará are located, the number of cities in which they are present, the amount of systems, and the number of connections. And here the population that it serves. And we have 39%. The first CESAR from Sobral started helping 2% of Ceará. So out of those 2 million rural inhabitants, we have this number in CESAR. And what is important here? In this fight for universalize, I'm going to mention one example of CESAR.
Well, it's a very dry region, and they have 62% of the rural local population. The average is 39, but this one is higher. The other ones are underway. So here we have the 16 municipalities, and I chose Guaraciaba, which is served at a rate of 100%. So the CESAR operates in 124% of the cases. And let me explain to you. Guaraciaba do Norte has a population of 40,000 inhabitants, and Cagece only serves the headquarters. Well, at the center headquarters, we have 12,000 people. These are people in the urban region. And 9,000 for CESAR. 9,000 connections made by CESAR. In the urban region, 4,700. These are CESAR connections. 4,795. This is the urban population of districts belonging to Guaraciaba. All districts, no matter how big they are, they have an urban region, and the CESAR serves those. So CESAR serves the entirety of the rural population, 21,000 inhabitants at 100%, and 24% of the urban population. They are located in the districts in Guaraciaba do Norte. So this is how Ceará is moving towards universalizing. As of 2001, we had 2,000 locations and 35 municipalities, and we served 2% of the population. In October 2020, we operate in locations in 1,787 locations in 159 municipalities with 218 connections. Cagece is serving 3%, say 17%, the community 4%, CESAR 39%. There were 2 loans that were made. So in the next 4 years, we are going to expand from 39 to 53%. The rural population of Ceará will be served by CESAR. We estimate that by 2033, 75% of the population will be served by CESAR, just 1% by Cagece. They want to transfer this percentage number to CESAR. As AAE should expand, reaching out, and the communities will operate at a smaller intensity. Well, here we have the management model. We received international guests from many other countries. People came from all around Brazil, from other regions as well. And I would like to acknowledge our relationship with Africa, Ethiopia, Mozambique, and Angola, and the other countries that have visited us as well. Well, the management model and this research was funded by the Development Bank. CESAR ranked first as the best model for management of utility services. So we were funded, and Brazil was represented by CESAR in this global survey. There were 4 years of research, and Brazil was awarded in its prior administration. So here we have the objectives of sustainable development, the SDOs. So CESAR in Ceará ranked first with its model. So it's a model that has been awarded. So we reassert here that we are in the pursuit of serving the interests of the state. The political will is to provide water services to all communities, and it has to be managed by the CESAR model. Thank you very much. Thank you, Neuri and Elder, for the information. Thank you for showing Ceará's example. Well, Jacy, Prado, and Barjas, Negri will talk about the municipality of Piracicaba. It is an example because the sanitation services were privatized in the city. So how did you go about, promoting the universalization? What is the coverage rate at Piracicaba City? So you, Mr. Mayor, you go first. It's a great honor to be here with you. We are talking about our municipality. We have 400,000 inhabitants, and we have universalized services, including sewer services. Something that is important that happened in our city was the movement of the civil society. So we have regional connections. We have the basin of the Piracicaba River that connects us to Jundiaí. And it has been working well for more than 30 years. So we have this sanitation services along this basin. So all of the municipalities along the basin have been acting on basic sanitation services. So we all followed this master plan in the city of Piracicaba since the 70s. So every 5 to 10 years, this master plan was updated. So the mayors were able to invest in the technical master plan. And we all advanced so that we could ensure the water supply and the sewage treatment. So we followed the plan to the letter. It was not politicized. It was just a social policy, not an election policy. So if I can give you any suggestion, I would say that master planning is essential. The structuring of the rates, they should be more realistic, and that's essential. And working with the public companies for sanitation. So it's very much complicated to debate the rates in the municipality. We have the associations from the communities, we have the unions, we have the employers association. So we have to dialogue with the civil society, especially in the municipal house. Because every time we need to install a new main, a new treatment station, we had to discuss it all with the civil society and the rates that would be defined as of them. Now it's much easier to approve the rates. And the mayor had to promote this clash with the society because the rates were adjusted so that new investments were made. Now we have a realistic rate, and that allows us to make investment and to pay for funds, and that's highly important. There must be specific targets in the sanitation system. We have to use the demand as a basis. So there are many items that are factored in. So the public sector had to make investments, or we wouldn't be able to universalize the sanitation services. So we did quite well up until 2012, with more than 70% of the treated sewage, but we had no conditions to keep that level of investments. So we established this PPP, this public-private partnership. So we have the autarky that is in charge of the intake and treatment of water. And as of 2012, we established this partnership for the collection and treatment of sewage. So the private sector, is more capable of raising funds and to develop the projects in a more streamlined fashion. So that's what we did. So there are many municipalities in the region, rural municipalities that have engaged, and it worked out fine. Well, it's not because it worked out here that it's going to work out in other cities. There must be good planning. There must be a good design. The municipalities have to be engaged. The state has to participate. For example, there were cities of 50,000 inhabitants, but they had their technical advisory team, and they were also contributing. So this is all required for us to further advance in a good sanitation system. With the new regulatory framework, there is this perspective for investments from the private sector, but this is not enough. There must be a good design. We must discuss the infrastructure. We need to know who is going to bear the costs of the concession. Well, this is what we have done in the city of Piracicaba. Our basing committee that has more than 50 municipalities. But in treating the sewage in our basin, we have more than 70% of the sewage that is collected, that is treated in Piracicaba, Rio Claro cities, and this is all based on the model that we devised. So it is possible to improve the sanitation system if we use a good strategy, a good planning, and also the participation of the community so that they agree upon on what's going to be carried out. We have to use the PPPs and the regulating agency participating in the process. So you also have to sensitize the society so that they participate. Very well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to greet the panelists. I would like to greet Mônica Bicalho as the moderator, President, Mônica Porto, Mayor Barjas Negri. I really liked Neuri's presentation, especially addressing the scenario. I'm quite familiar with what happens in Ceará, and I know it's quite difficult to obtain water resources. They live in a drought region, so I'm aware of the difficulties they face and the good management of Cagece that enables the state to have more reassurance in difficult times. There is an important point about sanitation in Brazil that I would like to highlight, and the evolution of sanitation. From the times when the state companies were founded, at the time we invested 0.40% of the GDP in the sector. So before the regulatory framework, we were investing 0.15, 0.14% of the GDP. This figure is not enough, not even to keep up the assets and the systems operating in Brazil with the current quality of assets. So we need a bit more even to keep the operation up. Something that the pandemic brought to us. Advantages, if that's possible to say. But that's the awareness on how much sanitation is important. Everybody needs treated water in the domiciles. It's important to supply high quality water to people's households, especially in tough times. And there are 3 points that I would like to highlight so that I can further conclude the case of Piracicaba. I know that time is scarce and we need to close this panel, but we have to discuss regulation. The regulation of the sector, especially with the new regulatory framework. So our regulation brings more reassurance to the investors. And then effectively we can bring investments to Brazil. Some studies talk about 700 billion of investments. Some others say different figures, and I saw some studies with 1.3 billion. So these are huge amounts. We're not discussing whether it's public or private investments. We have to use supplementary investments between private and public funds. The state of Ceará has been doing that. Piracicaba did that a while ago. And 20 years ago, Mr. Mayor, Piracicaba had the admissions for diarrhea, they dropped by 57%. So diarrhea is directly connected to sanitation and treated water coming out from the faucets. So that's a historical milestone for the municipality. The regulatory framework is actually, enabling us to prioritize this matter. People do have treated water available in their homes, and this reduces the number of admissions in the hospitals. We all know that sanitation is directly related to health. We have a magical number, and the World Bank says that every 1 Rio invested in sanitation, you save 4 Rios in health, in the health sector. This cannot be dismissed. We have to implement sanitation in this country. And regulation is of utmost importance. So ANA has come to set the rules for the sector. ANA is not the regulator, but ANA is going to set the rules for the sector. ANEEL is an example. That's the energy agency, right? And it's a sector that is more advanced than ours. It's a sector that grew before ours. So ANEEL, the energy agency, made excellent work. They are benchmarked as a regulating agency today. This gave us institutional and legal security in the sector, especially to raise funds. If you take the infrastructure debentures for the country, most of the infrastructure debentures, and I would say that 80 to 90% were related to the energy sector. So there's much room for sanitation to grow. We believe that with a stronger regulation, bringing more security to the sector, we'll be able to create new Piracicaba cities all over Brazil. Today, Piracicaba city ranks first in ABES rank, and I think Mônica can endorse that. Sanitation services are a reference in Piracicaba. There's no right or wrong design. I think that all designs have to be analyzed according to their location. So we see the desalinizing, which is quite new in the state of Ceará. And the municipal PPP that was quite innovative in Piracicaba in 2012. So the treatment level rose in 3 years. 420 million reals were invested, and in 3 years, the city became universalized. This appreciated, the public sector. It gave more freedom to SEMI, to the autarky, to the municipality to make the investments in the water system, investments in the management. So financially speaking, the municipality is very sound. And the sanitation quality for the users is very high. It's actually an exemplary system all over the country. Time is scarce, and I would like to conclude. As long as the design is developed in a feasible way, with the right rates, with well-established targets, and the framework talks about that as well, people will actually fight for such projects. You can check the projects by the Development Bank, and Alagoas was an example that was tested. There was competition in the tender. The state of Ceará had also some projects developed to make the system universalized. And I think the private initiative will have an appetite for that as long as there is institutional and legal security. And that's what the Development Bank provides. To close, the name of the game now, because of the amounts to be invested, is who has the leverage capacity for such investments. Since the amounts of investment are very high, we're talking about 1 trillion reals, we actually need the private sector, and that's the entity that gives us the leverage capacity, effectively connected to this word that I always use, operational efficiency. Operational efficiency linked to right rates and the capacity of raising funds. I think we are going to have sanitation all over Brazil, with more Piracicaba cities all around the country. Something else that we have to bear in mind is our responsibility in the sanitation sector during the pandemic. Everybody who deals with sanitation becomes a responsible person, a responsible entity, even more during the pandemic. We cannot fail to take that into account. We did that in Piracicaba with the City Hall, with a semi. We made investments in all of the communities of the municipality. They have been growing at a faster pace than that of the city. So we lived up to our responsibility. We made millionaire investments to be able to provide sanitation to the communities and to provide a higher quality of life, reducing the social inequality and also improving their health.
Those are
So
the
these
points I
are
would
the
like
points.
to highlight. And I would like to finish with that. Thank you, and I'm available if you have any questions. Thank you. Thank you all who brought this amazing example from Piracicaba. It's amazing how you reach universalizing in a city. We know all the difficulties many cities have, but great. Thank you. Thank you for all information. Mônica, how are you? Sabesp is among the state companies for sanitation in Brazil. Which are the perspectives for universalizing? How do you overcome all the challenges in this subject, not only in your headquarters, but in all regions of the state? Good morning, Mônica. Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Jacy, Elder, everybody. Recently, I took office in the Department of Regional Systems, and our department takes care of all departments of Sabesp except the metropolitan region. So the regional system department takes care of all the municipalities. We have 41 in the metropolitan one. We have 375 municipalities out of 645. So it's 60% of all municipalities. So Sabesp has investment levels that are quite meaningful. Sabesp has an investment level of 3.8 billion reais per year. Sabesp alone represents 30% of the whole investment in the country. And we are able to do that without having one of the greatest fees in the country. We are the 60th lower fee. We have in average 4 reais, in the countryside 3.7 reais. And today at the department in which I am, that is for the regional systems, out of 334 municipalities, 329 are universalized. So we still have an effort to implement that in all others, but in all of them, we have good rates. If we get the department as a whole, Sabesp as a whole has universalized water. Sabesp as a whole has 90% of sewer coverage. The regional department in which I am, we are in around 95% of sewer coverage. And Sabesp as a whole has 76% of all its economies invested in treatments. And we have that invested in smaller municipalities. Almost 95% of all households are in this program. In relation to universalizing, Sabesp has a good condition if we compare to the country as a whole. Although challenges are great, in larger cities in which our department operates, like São José dos Campos, or the metropolitan region of São Paulo, and also in the shoreline of the state, we have major challenges. So one important thing, and Jacy mentioned that, is that the country has to evolve in relation to regulation. We have our regulation that is from ACESP, It's been implemented for many years. We have this agreement with them. So our municipalities are regulated and all contracts have goals. And for instance, the city of São Paulo has an agreement from 2010 and we had goals on that. So the totality of our agreements have targets and goals, and some that were implemented by the law, like intermittence and things like that, but at least water and sewer coverage and treatment is included. And the company is organized because it's better to get organized complying with the agreement. So we organize ourselves, checking all the goals of the contract, what we have to invest in order to reach the goals, then to have investments in different places. So regulation helps companies and all sanitation companies to get organized. So I think this is a point. The fee is also something to be discussed in relation to payment capacity, but Sabesp is also an example. Our social fee is around 20 reais, including water and sewer, around 20 reais, for up to 10 cubic meters consumption. Outside the social fee, these 10 cubic meters is in 25 reais for waters. And we have municipalities in which sewer is 100% of the water and some that is 80% of water. But the minimum fee is 10 cubic meters of 27 reais. So Sabesp has evolved with its fees. That is quite reasonable. So I believe there is this continuous search, mainly to reduce costs. There is a great effort to reduce costs in all areas. So Sabesp has been investing. For instance, last year, Sabesp invested 900 million reais just in the loss program. So to invest in loss is quite meaningful. Sabesp as a whole, we have 280 liters per connection, and in our department, we are in 211 liters per connection per day. So we have meaningful reductions in loss, and this is an increase in effectiveness. We are reducing the cost, and this is a very meaningful program. Now we are quite strong, mainly in our department, our regional department, for photovoltaic plants. This is also going to be a cost reduction that will be quite meaningful. We have a set of photovoltaic plants being built, some major ones with 10 megawatts capacity, some with a quite reasonable size. But I believe we also have another investment need. We've learned in the water crisis in 2015 that water safety was something quite important. With the drought we have this year, if we haven't done all the constructions for water safety, the Cantareira system would be at risk. So we are in a very comfortable place with all the measures for water safety. We see the need we have to expand this system for the countryside. Today, we have lack of water in many municipalities, small municipalities, and we need to set some emergency plans. So what we need is a higher investment in water safety for smaller municipalities. I believe some challenges are quite important. Challenges for which we need to get together and integrate our efforts. And I mentioned one of them, the occupation of irregular areas, something that is quite serious in the metropolitan region of São Paulo and also at Baixada Santista, the shoreline of the state of São Paulo. And we have areas, even here in São Paulo, we started a program that is called Água Legal, legal water, to supply water to unregulated communities as a social way. So the person has that bill to prove their address and everything, but also to reduce losses, because there was something that was quite meaningful. There was water deviation, and it's part of our water loss program to have this program called legal water. It has to be expanded to other regions in the state. So with water, we are able to work in these unregulated communities, but with sewer, we are not able to do that. So it is really necessary to have partnerships with the city government. So we are going to work together in housing programs, and then the city hall comes with the housing program and Sabesp with sanitation. But without these partnerships with the city government, we won't be able to do a thing, because we depend on solving housing problems. And this is a major challenge. We have many other challenges. Sabesp has major results with new technologies, automation programs, innovative solutions. So Sabesp has evolved a lot in that sense. So regardless the fact that we know that 2033 is a goal to be reached in a short period of time, I believe that there is a set of solutions that we'll have to look at. Sabesp and all other sanitation companies will have to look for technologies, check what has worked or not, and improve effectiveness. So the improvement of efficiency is our responsibility, so the fee won't be an issue all the time. So I believe this is a major challenge, but we are together and we want to reach all the goals in 2033 with the whole social right of sanitation. Thank you. Thank you, Mônica. It's a pleasure to meet you. I hope we will see each other in this long pathway of sanitation. Well, I would like to introduce our friend and colleague, Juliana Almeida Dutra. She is the coordinator of this subject, water, sanitation, and health for everybody, inside the Brazil Water Week. And she is the facilitator, checking all the questions. So Juliana, please ask the first question, and then we can try to answer all of them. Thank you all for your participation. Mônica, the first question we have is for you. People asked how Sabesp expect to work with rural sanitation. Within the program contracts, we have the definition of the service area. So this is a major discussion that we need to have in up to 2022 to check how we are going to work with the service area. All our agreements and all our investments were established based on a negotiation with city governments. And this is going to be a new moment. So how do you do now? When updating the program contracts up to 2022, in my department, all 334 agreements we are going to establish how we are going to treat the service area. So I believe this is a technological challenge. Rural sanitation is going to be an important challenge for us, because to perform rural sanitation with low fees, low rates, is something that is quite difficult. And companies, the investment Sabesp does comes from the rates. So this is something that has to be defined in the next 2 years, a year and a half, and how we are going to treat that with the cities, and how they are going to determine that. Thank you, Mônica. Mônica, I received one that you asked for Piracicaba. Jacy, Mr. Mayor, your voice was quite low during your presentation. So in Piracicaba, how many cities are benefited by the social fee? What is the minimum amount for common connections and social fees? And what is the average fee? Thank you. The Piracicaba fee. The Piracicaba fee is a little bit lower than Sabesp fee. We have social fee that is regulated by our water basin agency, but it just started this year. So we didn't have a meaningful amount of people who became part of that. So it's around 40 reais, including water and sewer. The other question was? Your microphone is muted, Mônica. It would be the social fee, the average fee. I think you've answered. Jacy, would you like to add anything? No, this is for cubic meter every 1,000 liters. So here in Mirante, we have the sewer part. So my responsibility is the sewer, and the semi performs all the work for water supply. So the mayor explained it's for cubic meter. Thank you. We have a question for Elder and for Neuri. Which solutions do you advise to universalize the rural area for maintenance and operation? Well, we have to understand, first of all, that the scattered population depends on the point of view. Our standard of projects serves those concentrated regions and advance as much as possible. Our idea is to find a water source that can supply water to the region. After defining that water source, to establish a project with a universal point of view. We have a water source that serves 100% of one municipality with 350 kilometers, with 39 communities, and all those who are around the public streets and the public avenues. What makes it all difficult? When you are isolated and you live in the top of a hill, when you are isolated and it's difficult for the engineering work to get there. So we can think about cisterns or individualized supply. So universalization is not easy, but it goes from the fact that everybody who designs projects leave the air conditioning, visit the region, and establish a project serving the whole population. In the city that I've mentioned, Piracicaba do Norte, we learned how to work and we serve everybody. But we have more than 60 communities there. I've visited in Paraná to serve 37 people. The system had 32 kilometers, so 900 meters for one single person. So when you want to universalize, there's no difficulty to do that. Nothing related to that. Resources are the major difficulty.
Helder,
muito obrigada. Neuri, você queria complementar? Oh, desculpa.
Eu quero só fazer uma complementação, porque...
I would like to add on to that, because this matter of universalizing services, as Mayor Barjas said and Jacy said, it has to do with the rates. There is a direct relationship with the rates, and universalizing rural sanitation. Well, most dwellers, they have a low income. We need to find balance so that this is made feasible. So hardly ever are we going to make it feasible in dispersed communities by making investments to be charged back in the rates. So here in the state of Ceará, let me tell you how this works. It is based on state funds. So the state borrows from the World Bank, KCW, from the treasury of the country to invest in the system, so much so that communities may operate by means of their associations, but without being concerned about paying back the investment. So we are able to provide coverage, and we can reach out to the households that are far distant. So it's important to consider such funds. The investments should be paid by other sources, not only the rates, or the difficulties will be greater. And we'll have to use the double subsidy so that the urban population pays a little bit more so that the rural communities may have the access to services as well. Another opinion is that in the case of water supply, it's a bit easier, taking into account what I said. For the sewer system, in the state of Ceará, we do have communities that have collective systems. They collect and they dispose of in the environment appropriately. This is for rural sanitation. But in most cases, we need to consider individual solutions because collective networks, they're not possible. They cannot be used. So we have to consider all of these situations. We shouldn't think there'll be a single solution, one size fits all solution. The figures that we see in the countries today, very often they do not take into account, for example, the quotas of the households and the final destination of the sewage. So for rural sanitation, it should be as simple as possible so that we don't have high rates, because if they're high, it's not going to be feasible. And this is the policy we have been adopting in the state, even to serve the far distant households. We have to consider individual solutions, as Elder explained quite well. So thank you, Neuri. A final question to Mônica now. We would like to thank you all for participating. Those of you who are watching us at YouTube, thank you for the messages and the compliments. Unfortunately, time is short. We'll have the president of ABES speaking to us in 6 minutes to inaugurate the Congress in Curitiba. Will not be wearing masks there. We'll be participating in the 31st conference held by ABES. So, Mônica, can you tell us about the dialogue between Sabesp and the master plan agencies in terms of supporting the infrastructure? Well, in this effort made by Sabesp, during the negotiation with the city halls and the city administrations, our basis behind the contracts and programs and targets are the municipal sanitation plans. So the state of São Paulo has a number of sanitation plans which is high. There was an effort made by the state administration so that all municipalities had their sanitation plans. When I was part of the secretariat in the past, we made this huge effort so that all municipalities had their sanitation plans using funds from the state. So the state administration hired such funds. I think they're virtually ready or about to be ready. So we have the municipal sanitation plans. In negotiating the targets of the contracts, the negotiations are based on the municipal plans, municipal sanitation plans, so that we can, align them both, so that the investments made by Sabesp are in line with the municipal investments. There's so many questions we have here, but unfortunately, we do have this appointment of the inauguration. We have to close at 11:50. I would like to thank the sponsors once again, Sabesp, Milia, Suez, Ana, Aegea, Sedai, and Iguá Saneamento. I would like to thank our panelists, Neuri Freitas, Director of Cagece, Elder Cortez, Director of Business with Cagece, Jacy Prado, from utility company Águas do Mirante, Barjas Negri, the Mayor of Piracicaba, and Mônica Porto, the Director of Regional Systems with Sabesp. And all of you who were here with us, the session will be recorded. It's going to be made available at the YouTube ABES channel if you want to watch it again, or if you want to share. And at the Water Week website, you may register for the next special sessions. And for the Brazil Water Week, from October 26th to 30th. The next special session is going to be tomorrow at 10 with the topic ODS, the SDO number 6, and the experience of the social rate in the world. Quite interesting. So I say goodbye. I would like to invite you all to participate in the inauguration of the 31st Water and Sanitation Conference. And I invite Mr. Bittencourt, the National President of ABES, the President of the session ABES Paraná, Luiz Henrique Bucco, and the Director of ABES Paraná, Selma Aparecida Cubas. See you then at the inauguration.
Bom dia a todos, bom dia, Mônica.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Monica. I would like to greet the panelists and thank you so much for the excellent special session. Good morning to everyone watching us. It's a great satisfaction to me to come here to inaugurate the Curitiba ABES conference during the first special session for Brazil Water Week. Brazil Water Week is developed by a large group of people. Admirable work they do to transform this presence-based event into an online event. So that's the first of the special sessions. And then we're going to have from 26th of 30th of October, the Water Week per se. So it's a great satisfaction to be here with you. Our 31st Brazilian Congress on Environmental and Sanitation Engineering and 31st ABES conference, as we call it, this will take place in Curitiba City next year. So we are transferred from the first to the second half of the year. So today we are here to inaugurate and declare the conference open, quite instigating theme based on intelligent cities. And Professor Bucco and Professor Selma will talk about this topic right after me. So we have an agenda. We have the scientific agenda dealing with sanitation. We'll be discussing the new regulatory framework, the legislation, the SDOs, which is also a focus of the Brazil Water Week. We want to have this at the core of the discussions of our conference. And all of the technical works that are part of ABES conference. It's quite technically representative throughout the country. So the conference will take place in the second half of the year. So we're going to publicize the date in October during the Brazil Water Week. So there are three references: the date of the conference that is going to be published in October, and then next November we'll launch the trade show, FITABES, the exhibition trade show for the exhibiting companies. So please wait, because in November we'll be announcing the news on the trade show. And the papers, the call for papers will be open on December the 1st, actually. So we need to set the date in October, we launch the trade show in November, and we do the call for papers on December the 1st. So now I'll turn it over to Luiz Henrique Bucco, our president in Paraná, Professor Selma, and they will further explain everything that was considered, everything that we have been doing to be able to organize the structure and the themes of the 31st conference. So Bucco and Selma, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So ABES chapter Paraná has been planning and building the conference for more than 4 years, our Congress on Sanitation and Environmental Engineering. We have been gearing great efforts. The first conference in Natal, ABES Paraná, was in the pre-launch event, inviting everyone to come to Curitiba in 2021. So it was a successful event, as they said. So this poses a great responsibility on us so that we hold another excellent conference organized by ABES. And we count on you for that, as we count on your presence. We didn't expect the world to stop because of coronavirus, and the key challenge will be overcoming the pandemic. These are new times, we are more connected, we're even closer, even being further apart. The greatest challenge will be, the resilience and sustainability for any city or community, implementing basic sanitation and the priority actions in the city, using innovative technologies, inclusive technologies, serving everyone and promoting the health and well-being of all of the dwellers, with no exception. Therefore, we are launching the 31st ABES Conference 2021 with the theme intelligent cities connected with the environment and the sanitation system, the challenges of new times. So based on this discussion, good morning, everyone. We want to leave you with some questions in mind so that you come to the conference with the answers so that we may discuss them, or with even, additional questions that you might have. So in this big discussion about intelligent and innovative cities, what is truly a smart city? How can we make the cities more sustainable and more intelligent, more, smart? We talk about smart cities, sustainable cities, connected cities, and we all have an angle. Sanitation sometimes is seen as an additional infrastructure pillar. And this conference, we want to address sanitation as a priority for the resilience of cities. So whenever it rains, there's flood in the cities. And most often, this is because basic sanitation was not well planned. The sewer system, the solid waste, the circular systems. So how can sanitation become a priority in the truly smart cities? And how can we, connect the sanitation services and the actions of basic sanitations to the new smart and innovative technologies? So all of a sudden, we were talking and we are separated further apart. We couldn't think of that a while ago. So the smart cities, they have many definitions. So we discussed and we created our definitions. That's our own definition for the conference. So smart cities, what are they? They have to take into account circular economy, sustainability, community participation, connection, but it should promote equality and social inclusion as well. So that's the challenge of our times. We have to discuss the connection between smart cities and sanitation, like drainage, soil, and sewer system, to enable us to fulfill the targets of the 2030 agenda with the SDOs. SDGs, better saying. So how can we encourage a healthy behavior, the implementation of effective strategies, the management of the water supply, the use of renewable energy, innovation and use of technology as a connection between the economy, the society, and the protection of the environment? That is, what do we understand that is the role of sanitation in building a city and in promoting sustainability, because universalizing promotes inclusion, security, resilience, including climate change, protection of water and the earth, and taking into account the rural, the peri-urban and the urban cities, strengthening work, the generation of income, protecting soil and water for the sustainable production of food, reducing poverty and extreme poverty. So in 2021, in our conference, we want to promote this broad discussion on all of the themes that we have been discussing and the new themes that are emerging, that are a challenge to us. We want to make research, teaching, and education interact by using the good practices on urban management, in addition to offering technical papers, which is the very important area, the experiences, as well as networking. We want to promote networking. As Mônica said, we want to be together in 2021 in Curitiba City, in the south of Brazil. All of us celebrating. I think it's going to be a celebration because we went through this hard time of isolation. Now we want to be closer together, right? Using the international and national partnerships. So we want to decide what we aim at when we say sustainable development. So we have the signature of this memorandum of understanding, something that we did last year with virtually all universities here in Curitiba City. the Londrina University is participating, as well as the Araucaria Foundation and some private educational institutions, and also representatives from Sweden, from the university in Sweden and in Germany, because they also signed this term of commitment. So I would like to invite you all to come to Curitiba to participate in the debate about the importance of sanitation and its pillars, discussing how the smart cities can impact on the quality of life using technology and sustainability. So we wish you all a more connected and inclusive conference so that you can all participate. That's why we are assessing, whether it's going to be presence-based or virtual. It could be a hybrid conference or something that will enable everyone to participate. We wish to reach out to all corners of Brazil and of the world. We are going to pose the new challenges for new topics, the SDGs on sanitation, circular economy, bioeconomics, artificial intelligence. And we should not fail to say that this is the theme of the conference. How can the smart cities be in line with sanitation and environment, and how do we overcome the challenges?
This is our major mission. And when including women in the Water Congress in 2021, we will acknowledge the importance of women for universalizing sanitation. So we are waiting for you in Curitiba. Good morning.
Obrigado, Selma.
Thank you, Buco. Thank you, Selma. We want to be all together, as Selma mentioned.
Nós ainda estamos aí.
However, we are still facing a long process to overcome the pandemic, and we are not able to see what we have ahead of us. And ABES, together with Brazil Water Week online, we are going to learn a lot, and we are going to use what we learned as necessary. Our wish is to be together in Curitiba next year. So soon we will release the date. We'll start the work on December 1st. So thank you, Mônica Bicalho, for leading this panel. And we can finish our session today. Good morning, everybody. Enjoy. Good morning, and thank you very much.